to first thank you guys for being on this journey with me, and to whoever has subscribed or has shared with their friends or family about the podcast. My duty is just to share my experience and hope to bring healing and to help you guys be more open and honest and vulnerable about the things that you may be going through. So that's the reason for me doing this podcast, and I hope that you guys are finding it to be fulfilling to you. Again, thank you for tuning in. And now that I got that out of the way, I want to get straight into this week's episode, and it's life after motherhood. How motherhood has reshaped me as a woman / human being, and the challenges that I faced on how I came back into who I was after battling postpartum depression. So in this episode, I want to discuss how since becoming a mother, my whole life has changed. And I know it sounds cliche, but for me, there's nothing cliche about adding in being responsible for training up a whole nother human being outside of continuously having to make sure you're straight mentally and just, keeping up with your own self, your own personal well-being. So once that baby comes out, for me personally, once I found out I was pregnant, I felt an instant shift. So thankfully, I started to do my own soul work. The usual, reading books, Googling this, getting advice from family members. But nothing in the world can really prepare you for becoming a mother. It really gets real once you give birth and that baby is home with you. It really kicks into high gear. If you're a mom, you know exactly what I mean. It's like walking into a situation blindfolded, but somehow it comes natural. So you just don't overthink it. You just kind of go with it, and through trial and error, that's how you groom your journey of motherhood. But for me personally, since becoming a mother to Genesis, who I cannot believe my baby will be 3 next month. She is super smart. She's talkative. She can hold a full conversation with you. She's super sweet. She's so loving. I really couldn't ask for a better daughter. I always express my gratitude to God for just a healthy baby, a happy baby, a smart baby. So before I get on my rant about Genesis, I find myself asking, who even was I before this child came into my life? How was I even living without her here? It's really like that. It's challenging, but it's so fulfilling at the same time. Everything that I had ever known about had gone out the window, even about myself, especially because I've been battling postpartum depression and I didn't recognize who I was the first year and a half of her life. And I was taking those steps to kind of like heal myself and do some soul work and, get advice from family members and get on my journey of healing. And motherhood will really make you observe and reevaluate everything and everyone for the betterment of yourself and your child, the environment they're in and what they're exposed to. And that is a big one for me. I am compulsively selective about what my child is exposed to, who she's around. And I will never hesitate to subtract her away from something if I feel it's not good for her, as you should. If you're a parent, children are innocent, and I like to keep her that way for as long as I can. But as far as my growth, man, since becoming a mother, that shift is real as hell. The push and the motivation to be better is real. I do nothing without thinking about how it could affect my child first. And that's the way it should be. You have to be so selfless while being a parent, because it's no longer just about you anymore, but about this child. And even when I make mistakes, I don't beat myself up over it. I like to look for the lesson in it and work towards being a better person for my child. Genesis is very smart and she pays attention to everything. She is like a parrot at her age right now. She's repeating everything. So I have to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's with, what I say or what I do around her, because I don't want her exposed to certain things at her young age. And I've also learned that once you become a mother, there's no more childish behavior. Everything you do, every decision you make regarding your relationships, your friendships, your career choices will have an effect on your child. So please make sure you're considering your children in everything that you do. It's hard, I know, especially after having a child, because you feel a sense of losing your identity. Well, for me personally, that's how I felt. It was like I had to regroup and kind of pick and choose the things that I could keep, going on to keep my identity. And then it's like, oh my God, I'm a mom. I'm going to be boring now. But no, with some self-discovery and self-work, yes, I had to scale back on some behaviors / friendships that were no longer serving me purpose. But for the most part, I'm still my most authentic self. And I'm a dope ass mom, because I'm genuine with it. I'm not trying to force it or come off as perfect. Everything is trial and error. And what I don't know, I read books about or Google or ask my sisters or my mom for advice to help me, because it takes a village. And I am who I am. I love me and the woman that I'm becoming with God's guidance. So I say all that to say, don't be hard on yourself. You don't have to be, the perfect parent. You don't have to parent exactly how your mother did or how your family members did. Every child is different. You have to do what works for you. With trial and error, that's where you learn what works for you and what doesn't. So keep going one day at a time. Be patient with your growth and embrace all of who you are, flaws and all, sis. Before I end it with the quote, I want to remind you guys to subscribe. And I haven't decided when I'm going to start the live feed, the live videos on Instagram yet, on Wednesdays for Wine Wednesdays. I'm trying to find the perfect time to start. I just got to get a couple of things out of the way first, and then I will give you guys a specific date on when that is going to start, so you guys can be on the lookout for the live Wine Wednesdays. I said in a couple of episodes back that I did a poll on if I should start doing that, and the polls were without a doubt yes. So I basically just be doing a live feed where you guys can ask me questions or give me suggestions, and I'll pick like a mini topic to talk about. It won't be like a all day thing. It'll probably be like 10 to 15 minutes of a live feed on Wednesdays. So I'm gonna regroup and figure out the date for that, and then I'll give you guys the information. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share with your family and friends about the podcast, and give me your feedback. You can be honest with me. I'm open to all feedback, so please don't hesitate to let me know. And I'm going to also add in the Twitter for the podcast page in the show notes, and the Instagram page for the podcast. Make sure you follow both of those. And I am truly grateful for all who are on this journey with me again. And I am going to close out with the quote. So here goes. The natural state of motherhood is unselfishness. When you become a mother, you are no longer the center of your own universe. You relinquish that position to your children. And that quote is by Jessica Lange. And just to elaborate a little bit on that quote, it's like I was saying before earlier in the episode, that once you become a mom, you have to take into perspective, the fact that you have a child now. So any decision that you make, good or bad, will ultimately affect the child. So it's important that you take into consideration first, will this affect me? Will this affect my child? What will happen? So you have to be selfless. You have to be unselfish and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward every day to be a better person, so that you can be the best parent to your child. Again, guys, thank you for tuning in, and please don't forget to subscribe and to put your family or your friends on the podcast. I'm behind on my book sharing because I'm still reading the Boundaries book, but bear with me. Life has been super busy. I'm getting ready for Genesis's birthday next month. So I'm getting there. I'm almost done with the book, and then we can get back to our monthly reads, hopefully. So again, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week for episode 14. I want to wish you guys a great week, a great work week. Be patient with yourself, be diligent in your work, be motivated, be optimistic, the usual of what I say. And my new thing is be a blessing, y'all. Don't be a burden. Just try to bring light in people's lives. Don't try to bring more strife. It's enough stuff going on in the world. So make sure you're being a light. Make sure you're being a blessing and not a burden. And I will leave you guys with that. You guys have a great week. And I will talk to you guys for episode 14.